Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Hey. Sports.
You are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports as Ordered. And we got a lot to get to tonight. You know, we got a new firing in the NFL. You know, and it's not Mike McDaniel because you know what he did on Sunday. You know, we got reaction to all the Week 10 action. What is going on down in Baton Rouge in the parishes? We'll get to that. And then, of course, tonight, the official release of the second college football playoff rankings. So as you can see here, we got the one and only world-renowned, cool, calm, and collected. He is Mr. Logical. And then, of course, over here, your unorthodox statistician, 2-5. Let's get right to it. So, Mr. Logical. As I was chilling yesterday, you know, I was sitting around and I was like, hey, I wonder what coach is next to be fired. Like, I literally had this thought. I didn't even have a name in mind, but I was just like, somebody got to get fired. It's been too quiet. And then Brian Daboll came across, and then I got upset because I hate doing tomorrow what you could have did yesterday. You know, like they hired this, or they could have fired him at the end of the season last year, along with the GM Joe Shane. And when you look at the GM in particular, you know, we've seen these videos of people telling him, yo, draft this dude. And he's like, no, I want
not people, his teenage son and preteen age daughters.
He's like, I want
not professional people, his children on 4K cameras provided by whatever umbrella television company runs Hard Knocks. They literally told him, find a way to get Jaden Daniels. They told him. And instead he let Saquon go. Like that was like the trade-off. Yeah, he should have fired. They should have been fired. And I hated bringing it up because like we said the same thing. Like, look around the league. Look at Chicago. Chicago's been in this spiral for, we're going to go to 12 seasons now, where they have a coach, doesn't like the quarterback. They get rid of the coach. They keep the quarterback. New coach, doesn't like the quarterback. They get rid of the quarterback, get a new quarterback. That new quarterback doesn't thrive with the old coach. They get rid of the coach. It's been the cycle up until right now. They're having success with Ben Johnson, but that took 12, 13 years for that to happen. The Giants are about to find themselves in that same hole.
Well, when you go back and look at it over the years, you know, it can't help that Daniel Jones is doing what he's doing in Indianapolis right now either. You know, after they let him go, you know, you mentioned Saquon went on and won the Super Bowl. So Brian Daboll was the head coach of the only playoff win that they've had since they won that Super Bowl back in 2011. You know, and there's some odd things going on up in New Jersey. So this season, you talk about it a lot, where Jackson Dart went into the tent and Brian Daboll ran over there like, you know, like somebody was shooting, you know what I mean? And I didn't know until I read it today that he actually got fined, you know, $100,000 for that. And
for
you know,
rushing the doctors.
Yeah. And Cam Scatterbo got fined $15,000 because he did the same thing. And then the team got fined $200,000. So I didn't know that coming in.
Only person that really hurts is Scatterbo.
Right. And you know, but when I look at this season as a whole, this is the problem with the NFL. They fire you based off the results, but they don't use the context within the results because we had Malik Neighbors get hurt in the second or third game of the year. You know, Jackson Darts come in. They look a lot better. Not winning games per se, but they did beat Philly. You know, you got Cam Scatterboo's out for the season now. You know, so you got Mike Kafka taking over, who was the quarterback coach / offensive coordinator now. But then you got people complaining about how much you're running Jackson Dart. But you got the guy that was calling the plays that ran him too much in charge now.
Because that ain't the reason. That's not the reason why he lost his job. The reason he lost his job is because they did not look at him and feel as if this guy's going to make our football lives better. All the circumstances are very true. Malik Neighbors is out. Scatterboo is out. The defense isn't playing great, even though Burns is leading the league in sacks. I think he might be tied with Myles Garrett now because Myles got one on Sunday. But the top draft picks haven't really done much. They look good, but guys like Thibodeau haven't really produced much. Abdul hasn't produced much. So it's like Jackson Dart was your shiny penny.
Didn't draft them. Brian Daboll.
The way that he can't, I mean, if you look at it, he reacts every time that Russell Wilson's on the field like it's Russell Wilson's fault. They're in the predicament that they're in. And he's done it multiple times. That's why he got fined going up to the tent, because he was so concerned that Russell was going to cost him his job.
And guess who didn't bring Russell Wilson in?
Well, the leadership signed him. So
Brian
he probably was like,
Daboll.
listen, you guys got me. This guy I don't want. I was like, okay, cool. Well, we don't want you either. So go ahead and slide.
So 2-8 at this point. At this point, I just feel like play the season out. I don't know what you gain by firing him at this point. Unless you just really wanted him out of the building because he was an asshole or something along those lines, which I think he was. But you know what I mean? But I think that he'll land okay with an offensive coordinator job somewhere next season. But I wanted to get your thoughts on who do you think would be a good replacement for him? Because a lot of people are leaning Mike McCarthy.
Indy's offensive coordinator. The guy that fixed Daniel Jones, straight up. Listen, we laugh about this. And you and I talked about this a lot, especially on the podcast. We talked about it with, like, when you hear people talk about people in government positions or politicians or head coaches or GMs or league presidents, there's this air that, oh, these guys are the smartest of the smart. They only make good quality decisions. They don't. They do one of two things. Either they copy somebody else's mold, or they try to make their own mold based off the fact that they don't want to copy somebody else's mold, whether it's been successful or not. That's it. So they're going to look at what Chicago did when they went and got the hot offensive coordinator that made Jared Goff look like a superhero at quarterback. They're going to be like, oh, this guy turned Daniel Jones around. Let's give him a job. So I'm surprised in Minnesota, if J.J. McCarthy was having a better year, Carson Wentz having a better year, whoever the offensive coordinator in Minnesota will be getting the look, because they turned Sam Darnold around. And now look what they're doing with Carson Wentz and J.J. McCarthy. Even though it could be all Kevin O'Connell, you're not going to get Kevin. You get the other guy with the title. Like, it's a standard. That's why we recycle. Cliff Kingsbury, if Jaden Daniels didn't get injured and they were having a very similar 11-5 type season, 11-6 type season that they had last year, or 12-5, right? They went 12-5?
12-5, yeah.
The Commanders would go, if they were on that same 11-6, 12-5 trajectory, and Jaden's healthy and he's throwing the ball all over the place, he would get a look, because he's the guy that got this young quarterback in this team that was losing all these years back into the thick of things in NFC East. Yeah, so it's going to be whatever offensive coordinator is doing the best job with the quarterback that people thought wasn't going to be good, that's the guy the Giants are going to hire.
Well, first of all, saying just because you brought him up, I have to say his name. The offensive coordinator for the Colts, Jim Bob Cooter. Can't go by without saying that name.
JBC.
But no, so what you said kind of aligns with some of what I thought. I was looking at Clint Kubiak, out there in Seattle. Obviously he had the whole offense down in New Orleans last year, the first 2 games of the season, and then Derek Carr got hurt, kind of fell off the rails. And now he's back in Seattle, having Sam Darnold. We were talking about, hey, is he an MVP candidate? Not a leader or anything, but in the conversation at the very least. So
after he was 17 for 18 for 4 touchdowns, I think that conversation was like ringing pretty loud.
Yeah, especially when, they had a different offensive coordinator last year. They had Ryan Grubb that came over from Washington with Kalen DeBoer, but then he went back to join them in Alabama. So Clint Kubiak's the offensive coordinator now. He's got that thing humming. I don't know. Like, is Mike Kafka automatically eliminated just by association with Daboll? So, like, even if the Giants
can't bring him back.
Like, even if the Giants, let's say, 7 games left, let's say they go 4-3.
Get rid of him.
Still can't get the job?
Well, you saw what happened with one of their former players, Antonio Pierce, when he took over the job in Vegas. Then it's okay. You can give him an opportunity to interview, but he's going to be a first-time head coach.
You do have to interview a minority, and of course, they are a team that.
No. I'm not talking about Antonio Pierce. I'm talking about Kafka.
Oh, okay.
Because how the Raiders kept Pierce because the players wanted him, and he was gone the following year because he did great in the interim. Don't fall for that. Like I said, they either are going to do this. They're going to try to break the mold with a whole new plan, or they're just going to do the same thing that somebody else did poorly. So you already seen the Raiders do this poorly. You've seen the 49ers do it recently poorly. You've seen it happen over and over again. Have a real coaching search, a real opportunity to get a guy that's really going to help your franchise. You might have to get rid of the GM because he seems to be kind of capitulating a lot of these problems as well. So you're going to have to make this decision as soon as the season ends. Get your new GM in place. Let your GM pick his type of coach, and then hope that you can keep the quarterback healthy and it works out.
Which is the crazy part, because going back to that point, what I was going to say was, the Rooney Rule, they have to interview a minority candidate. And we saw last time what happened when they hired Daboll, right? Bill Belichick texted the wrong Brian,
Correct.
Hey, and it was before, if I remember correctly, it was
before his interview.
Interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
So the Giants had already made their decision, and it was just a formality. But I got some other names, and they're not all offensive names, because I don't believe necessarily that you have to have an offensive head coach just because you have a young quarterback. Like, just get a coach in there that'll hire the right staff. Even though there is one name, before I get to my names, there is one name that just popped into my head as I was saying that. So if he gets fired, because a lot of these dudes tend to fall up. So, like, is it possible that they could bring like a Zach Taylor in?
No.
Okay. Former Super Bowl coach, but
yeah, it's the fan base here. You can tell how the way the Jets reacted to the trade, the Jet fans. Parking lot was empty. Half the stadium was empty. Like I said, I've gone to 3 Falcons versus Jets games. I don't think they were in playoff contention any of those years that I've gone to those games. And it was rainy and cold and windy, and the stadium was still, for the first half, was still packed. The rain was too much. It was like it was a downpour. One game I went to was a downpour. It rained the entire time. People were like, all right, listen, there's only so much I could take. It just was like literally the rain cloud was over the stadium the whole game. So people tried to stick it out, but they couldn't. And then the second time I went, it was cold in December, but people stayed. The fans were there. This last week, granted, it was against Cleveland. They probably could have got some very cheap tickets. They weren't there. So this area, they really care about their team. You can't just come out here and just do whatever and think it's going to work. It
All right,
has to be a real search.
So I got a name I'm gonna save for last, just so we can have a deeper conversation.
Word.
But here's a couple of names that I jotted down just thinking about it earlier. Like I said, not all offensive guys, because I don't believe in that. So
I'm
what
gonna
about
blind rank them.
What
How
about
many you got?
I got 4, and you already said one of them, which is Cliff Kingsbury. So you already said that one.
I'll put him at 3.
Could I don't think you could, but could you convince Spags to come over?
Leave Kansas City?
Yeah. That thing ain't gonna last forever. And he's been on Super Bowls with the Giants.
Yeah, but I look at it like this. As long as I got Chris Jones, Bolton, Chenault, Tranquil, that young core defensive back,
I'm good over here, huh?
I'm good over here. I'm riding it out. Chris Jones retires, and then somebody, a couple of these linebackers go because they're getting $20 million a year. Okay, I might think about option 2, but it's like as long as I have that core, I'm not going nowhere.
All right, Vance Joseph.
I like that, but they don't hire black coaches for the Giants, right? They haven't had
2025, right? You know what I mean? We got to do something at some point.
I like Vance.
Okay. Then the third name, Jeff Hafley. He's the defensive coordinator for the Packers, former Boston College head coach. He was on the Giants staff, many years ago. He's got the Packers back-to-back years, his first 2 years as top 5, top 6 defense. So, just a thought. But here's the name that I wanted to have the conversation about.
All right.
Matt LaFleur.
Nah, Green Bay has more patience than the Twitter fingers that are going ape over this team.
They might, but it's been 8 years now. And and on his jacket, what I'm saying, and I'm not one of those guys, but on his jacket, he had MVP twice, Aaron Rodgers, and couldn't get past the 49ers, couldn't get past Tom Brady. You know what I mean? Last year, obviously, they ran into Philly in the first round.
Really good organization, beat them, and then an all-time great quarterback.
And then now, I don't know what the Packers' internal expectations are, but, they went on and got Micah Parsons at the start of the year. So a lot of people, I did it beforehand, but a lot of people started jumping on the wave, and especially after week 1, what they did to Detroit.
So they're on 3 losses, right? So
yes, 5-3-1. Yes, you know what I mean?
5-3-1.
And the biggest complaint that I hear is about his play calling. And remember what we talked about last week, right? About the 4th downs. He went for that 4th and 9 last night. It's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, you don't go for 4th and 9 if you think your job is on the line. Like, you haven't been sat down. And once again, this is another thing. The Packers are owned by like the fans. So I'm not sure. Like with the Cowboys, we know Jerry Jones's ego could take over a negotiation or decision to fire somebody. I'm not sure how the Packers run, but they don't seem like a team that is going to jump the gun. Brian Daboll probably should have been gone.
Yeah.
Dennis Allen last year in New Orleans, they were doing terrible. Probably should have been fired. Mike McCarthy in Dallas, maybe not.
And like I said, so far,
Matt LaFleur is fine. Once again, it's like, what do you want from your next coach that you're not getting from Matt LaFleur? Because you pretty much are going to want that person to do everything Matt LaFleur did. Just, hey, win the NFC Championship game, which is still a tough ask, especially if you bring in somebody fresh who has to rebuild the offensive playbook, defensive playbook, the scheme, the mottos, and everything else. So he has to put his stamp on the team while clock is ticking on other people's contracts. other people's careers and how much money and everything else was like. I'd rather have the guy who knows how to handle that, who's already here, and they're 5-3-1. Does it suck that they're in a tough division where guys are winning games? That's not on him. Like Chicago beat the Giants on Sunday to get a win. Like that's not LaFleur's. Like he can only play the games in front of him, and they played the defending Super Bowl champs who got breaks. The score was 10-7. They gave up 10 points, and they played against a really, really good defense who went out and got more defensive help, who had 6 tackles for loss, and he caused the fumble.
Game-winning play, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like,
and so the media so far, from what I've been seeing, the media is making a McCarthy push. But to get back to what you were just talking about last night, Green Bay did it again, right? They come so close. Like I mentioned, the whole fumble that started the game in the playoff last year. Last night, it was inches, right? Bat the ball out the end zone, get him down at the 1, but didn't reestablish himself in the field of play. So therefore, touchback. Moments like that are the moments that Green Bay are running into when they play Philadelphia. And it's not quite Bills Chiefs because they haven't played that often. But it almost feels like, hey, we can go toe to toe with these guys. We
they
just
the
need
monkey
that
on the
one
Packers'
moment.
back. Sometimes I think, I watch, like I said, we watch a lot of football. I watch it at all levels. And sometimes you just got to put your team in a position for guys just to make plays. Ignore the analytics. Josh Jacobs on that touchdown, the 2 plays that he got the touchdown, he caught the little pass, which he doesn't catch. Like he doesn't catch a lot of touchdowns. I think he has like maybe 1, maybe 2 receiving touchdowns like in his career. He had like at some point he had like the most catches by running back without a touchdown reception. But he caught that pass. I think he had first contact maybe at the 13-yard line, got down at the 8, and then when he had the run, first contact was probably a 3-yard line. He took 2 linebackers and a safety with him into the end zone. Sometimes you got to look at him like, this guy he's the rock. Give him the rock. Let's just go for it. Granted, not when the dude's screaming inside zone this way, you might want to check out of it. I mean, he said it pretty clear. Like every microphone in the stadium picked it up. Right. But as you're going out throughout the course of the game, I know we rely on these quarterbacks because you're cutting them a $50 million check. I get it. But sometimes you have to just kind of ignore that and just go with winning plays. I say all the time, 3.5 yards per play, first, second, and third down is a first down. It might not be pretty, but a couple of drives, you might have to just be 3.5 yards in a cloud of dust.
Yeah, and I don't think that Jordan Love played bad last night. There were a couple of passes that might have been a little low, but still hit the receivers in the hands, that they could have made plays on, even on that same drive before we got to that 4th down that you're talking about. Yeah. There was a couple of plays that Dobbs could have made. Christian Watson had a hell of a game last night, especially since he's been back. He adds a different element to their offense. So I'm not concerned going forward about the Packers. Like, I think the Packers will be fine. But like you said, they're in a division where they're in 3rd place right now. You know what I mean? Because Detroit, like I told you, they come back off of these losses with a vengeance. And, Chicago has had a nice schedule so far. I'm not going to do the thing where,
your NFL teams, yeah.
Right. But they've played a couple of teams that give them little resistance, like the Raiders, the Giants the other day. So we'll see Chicago later in the season and see how real that is. Hey, so how about Sunday Night Football? We had this conversation about the Steelers and the Chargers. And I'd be damned if the Chargers didn't look like what we expect the Steelers to look like.
I've been picking wrong for the Steelers all year long.
Me too, except for this one, I guess. But yeah,
the win. It's weird. It's weird because when I look at quarterback play, you can tell Aaron. I think he feels good physically. He moves differently in the pocket. Like he manipulates the pocket differently. Like at a level, like granted, obviously this is because they have 20 years of experience difference. But like Bo Nix, Jackson Dart, Penix, all these young quarterbacks, they seem to be kind of panicked in the pocket.
Right.
Aaron was like moving, he's bringing the ball down, he was sliding, he was resetting his feet, he's throwing all those off angles. It's just that Pittsburgh just flat out doesn't have the playmakers that you need for Aaron Rodgers to be successful. And he needs them because he will lose faith in players rather quickly and become. That's how he had. Like, I don't think I've ever seen Aaron Rodgers go 16 for 31 in a football game.
So you
one
remember
of the most accurate quarterbacks in NFL history. He went 16 for 31 because Austin might have been open a lot more often than he gets the ball. But then when he hits him in the hands and it goes up for a pick, Aaron won't throw you the ball anymore. We talk about, remember that game? It was a Monday night game against Chicago, and MVS ran a deep post. I think they might have been up a couple of possessions. He dropped this deep post. Aaron snapped that helmet, the little strap off, and was pissed. MVS didn't get another target for the rest of the game. And like I said, they were up early in that game when he dropped that pass. But he does that. Like, if he can't trust you, because he makes plays based off what he sees, and he sees 20 years of NFL defenses, and I think he wants you to sit somewhere, or you got to catch this ball because you are the only guy that can exploit the defense. And it's like, I don't trust you to make this catch. I'm going to just throw it to DK and see what he can do because I have more faith in him. Hence why you have 15 incompletions.
And that's the thing, right? You remember back in the day, you go out to the bar, meet a couple of ladies. One of them might not be up to par with the rest of the ladies. And then you're like, you know what? I'm going to take one for the team. You know what I'm saying? You do it next time. I'm going to do it this time. Aaron Rodgers needs to take one for the team. And what I mean by that is he got to take a hit every now and again. I'm not saying get laid out. I'm not saying take a headshot or anything like that. But too many times, Aaron Rodgers is a guy at this stage. He only throws the ball, unless he's throwing it to DK. He only throws the ball if it's perfect. If you got that step, if you're at that hash, he will throw the ball to you. If not, he's going to snap the ball. He's going to go 1-2, don't see nothing, and throw the ball right into the ground. Play over. You know what I mean? Take one for the team. Make a throw while the blitz is coming. Make a throw wide.
Mike, fall out of your chair right now on purpose and show me how quickly you get back up.
Hey,
we old, man. He our age.
I don't get hit by football players. I can get up pretty damn.
That's what I'm saying. Actually, I'm saying if you fell out of your chair.
Hold up. Speaking of which, being old and all that, happy Veterans Day out there, y'all.
Straight up. Hope y'all got your food. I got mine. But yeah, he's old. He's literally our age. Like when he is literally our age. I'm 44. We in the same high school wandering the hallways back in the 1900s. Like, that's an old man. And he's like, I'm not taking a hit. Get to the spot. Get to your spot.
But I don't know how to react if
I can get you the ball.
Because the Chargers had the ball for 37 minutes in this game. The defense sacked Justin Herbert 5 times. So, and it's not like the Chargers went out there and was just hitting on all cylinders like Cincinnati was a couple of weeks ago. And we got the rematch this weekend with Cincinnati and the Steelers. But it's not one of those games. So it's like, Aaron, just make a play, dude. Like, I'm not, okay, I'm being a little facetious when I say take a hit. But all I'm saying is stand tough, stand proud. And maybe some of these receivers will work harder for you. But if they know,
if you're Aaron Rodgers, you're like,
Jalen Warren is the only dude that played good the other day.
If you are in the starting lineup and I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to get you the ball. And if you drop it, I'm going to stop throwing it to you. I don't know if Arthur Smith has that same understanding. Like, hey, don't call these routes where this guy's a primary route because he's pissed me off because he keeps dropping passes or he's not where he's supposed to be. I need him at 7 yards. He's at 10. I needed the curl. He ran a comeback. Like, no, get to the sticks and turn around. Don't come back. It's 3rd and 7. Why am I going to throw you the ball if you come back for a 5-yard catch? We need a 7-yard catch. You need to be 7 yards. So it's particular, but this is what they signed up for. They signed up for a guy who needs it to be a little less friction. It needs to be smooth. Because when it's smooth, he's discount double checking. But when that 14-0 lead goes away in the 17-14, now he might be cussing people out or scowling at people or pointing at people. That's just something that comes with when you deal with somebody who has that level of skill for this long.
So what is the state of, and we'll get into our preview on Friday, but what is the state of Tampa Bay and Buffalo heading into this matchup on Sunday?
I mean, it looks like the way they play it, it's going to be a tie because, like I said it before, Buffalo puts all their eggs in the regular season Kansas City Chiefs basket. They have a loss. They have a loss to Miami, and they got a loss to Atlanta on their record. Two teams whose fan bases are clamoring for a leadership total overhaul. But yet, you have all the pieces, seemingly, and you keep losing to these teams. I think they'll get up for Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay kind of matches their fly, so to speak. So they won't have to take them lightly. They're going to have to focus on, Mbuka. They're going to have to focus on Baker's playmaking. They're going to have to focus on defensively what Todd Bowles can dial up. I think when you look at Miami, you just figure we roll it out there. But you got to keep in mind, fast is fast. You can't teach speed.
Right.
So if you get a fast guy in open space and he gets a good block and an average block and a missed tackle, that could be 6. Because it's not that much. You get Achane in space. He gets enough of a block to where he can get space on the guy, a bad angle, and a missed tackle. He's going to the house. Jalen Waddle, you look the wrong way on a double move, or you look inside, you look it over the other shoulder, he can run right by you. Speed kills.
So I saw a clip this morning. Do you agree that Buffalo's window is closed?
I wouldn't say I don't say it's closed if they're doing. I just think other teams has gotten better. And I think in the playoffs, it's hard to bet against Kansas City if they were to match up. I think what Indianapolis Colts are able to do in the AFC with running the ball, because Daniel Jones didn't have a great game, but he made the plays that he needed to make. And Jonathan Taylor had 244
yards. Oh, yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah, we'll get into that later.
You look at Denver. The defense just makes plays. Granted, last week it was against a hobbled Geno that they kept sending out instead of just putting Kenny Pickett out there. I don't know what's going on with Pete Carroll. I think just that in of itself is probably just going to help them out, that they don't have real competition in their division, at least for a couple of games. So I think that's going to be tough for Buffalo to have to deal with Denver. I think Kansas City, if they make the playoffs, that's going to be tough. That's the problem. I think Buffalo, everybody can have a ultra dynamic wide receiver one. They have everything else they need, but they keep losing guys to injury. So you keep losing guys to injury. It's only so, like, you can't go 3-4 deep in multiple positions every single week because one guy's out and this other guy's out for another week, and you got to bring in this guy, and then hopefully he plays well, and then the guy ahead of him gets hurt. So it's just.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that their window is closed, like, regardless of how this season ends, because you still got Josh Allen, you still got James Cook, presumably, so you can always fill in around those type of toys. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, we talk about the Chiefs, and a lot of people wrote off the Chiefs coming into this year, and we just step back and say, hey, they got Mahomes, they got Worthy, they got all the speed. As long as you got that, and Chris Jones you talked about on defense, as long as we got that, we can fill in some supplements, to help us out. And I think that's where Buffalo is right now. And they should have probably obviously made a trade at the trade deadline to get a receiver, but that's neither here nor there. I think that if I'm Buffalo, in your mind, maybe not in reality, but in your mind, you think to yourself that Kansas City is all that you have to worry about. But Mr. Logical, I told you this a couple of weeks ago. The Ravens are on the march.
Yeah, I saw that. And I looked at the Steelers record. I was like, and like I said, I picked the Ravens to go to the Super Bowl. I just thought that Lamar was going to be out a little longer. I figured hamstring for a speedy guy.
Well, and that's the thing about a team like the Ravens. It's not even about the Ravens. It's about what you have around you, that's your competition, because we talk about Tom Brady back in the day, like he ran through the AFC East. There wasn't much pushback. So Pittsburgh, week to week, you never know what you're going to get. And the problem with that is with the Steelers, some teams like Cincinnati, for example, you're going to get offense. You're not going to get defense. So if you get anything defensively, whether that's sacks, whether that's turnovers, it's a bonus that could work well for the Bengals. But when you look at the Steelers, week to week, it could be the defense that comes and save the day. It could be the offense come out and put up 27 points. You just never know. But what you do know is that you're not likely to get both of them at the same time. And then Cleveland goes without saying. Baltimore plays Cleveland this weekend, so I expect another Baltimore victory. But when I was looking at that game against the Vikings, J.J. McCarthy has to work on that deep ball, because he's got these weapons, Addison, Justin Jefferson. But every time he tried to go deep against the Ravens, it felt like they picked him off. And I don't know if that's a more of a Raven thing or if that's a McCarthy thing.
That's probably a McCarthy thing. I think he's under 5 starts because he had the first 2, got injured against Atlanta.
And then played last week.
So he's really 4 professional starts and him watching, another 17 games. So like, he's been watching a lot of football, not playing a lot of football. So not understanding how fast a DB can get from one hash to the other hash, that's something you learn. So I'll give him a pass on, his passing and everything else because, like, he's a rookie. Granted, he's a second year out, but as far as experience level, he's a rookie.
I just don't know why they got him throwing it 42 times and, only running it 13, not including his scrambles. But like to beat a team like the Ravens, I know that, like we talked about this. The way to attack the Ravens is running the ball at them. And that game wasn't so out of hand that Minnesota had to go bombs away.
Because if you run it on first down and you get to 2nd and 8, now you feel like you have to pass because you're a passing offense and you have those weapons. You have Addison. You have Hawkinson. You have Jefferson.
Naylor was going off.
Then you have Naylor and you have, Aaron Jones that can catch screen passes. So you have so many pieces that can help your pass game and get you to move the ball. But 2nd and 8, incomplete pass, now it's 3rd and 8. You're not running on 3rd and 8. That's how you end up with 42 passes and 13 rushes because just trust that you can run it again. Just come up with a different kind of run for 2nd and 8 to try to get it to 3rd and 4 and 3rd and 3. Now you give your young quarterback options. He has wheels. He has the moxie that he's willing to make the throw or make the run without getting hit. Like he hurt his ankle in the pocket against Atlanta. Like they just were blitzing him and his foot got caught up underneath of him. So he wasn't like out here scrambling, getting hurt. He got hurt in the pocket. So he's going to make plays. He's a playmaker. He's a winner. He's been a winner since high school. We talk about it all the time. He can't. 3rd and 8 for a guy starting his 4th game is not a winning scenario to be in multiple times a game.
Yeah. So 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, Mr. Stafford, walked through San Francisco like a butter knife through toast.
Injuries and experience.
Well, and that's what we talked about. It had to catch up at some point. This is not, for me, it's not an indictment on the 49ers. It's not, the season is over or any of that kind of, talk. But obviously there's the room for error has gotten much smaller.
the
But the Rams,
availability of the highest guys in your payroll and the highest guys in your payroll and the best guys in your defense, their availability is pertinent for you to win games. Them
right,
not being there is only so much you could do.
right. But I'm excited because we got Rams Seahawks this week. And the Seahawks put that thing on the Cardinals. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, I feel like every time I went to go refill my drink, DeMarcus Lawrence was scoring a touchdown. That's the way that it felt. And that was something that we brought up the other day too. Whereas, like, for the most of the season, you might want Jacoby Brissett because he's not going to make the mistakes. But this was the kind of game that you needed Kyler Murray for that off script, improvisation, playmaking. But Mr. Logical, can you explain to me?
Let's hear it.
What in the hell happened to the Jacksonville Jaguars?
Okay, so I'm kind of back and forth on Sunday. I was watching the greatest game of the week. I was watching Cleveland versus the Jets, and I saw the Jacksonville scores popping up in the corner. It was, two AFC teams I was watching, so I was getting the live updates in the corner, and I was seeing, it was like 17-0. I believe I saw that score at some point. And then I saw something like 29-10.
Yeah, that was the score going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and I was thinking, like, because I'm always kind of like, I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I always think about, okay, where are the Chiefs in the playoff ring? Because that's a lot of our AFC playoffs conversations wrapped around, like, where did the Chiefs end up? Well, they were 8 behind Jacksonville because of the tiebreaker. And I was like, damn, looks like Kansas City is going to stay at 8. And I kept watching the greatest game of the week, Cleveland versus the Jets. And then we left. So we left Rachel's house. We went to the bar. Daughter works at a distillery. So they had like a big TV and it was splitting forwards. And the Jacksonville Houston game was on 3 of the TV. So I'm looking. I was like, that game's still on? Because the Jets game was over. Like, I had already, we already packed up. I think it was about to wrap up, but it was like 4.5 minutes left. And I'm looking at the score. I'm like, is that 29-24? Are they marching the ball? Like, it must be like 40 seconds left. I'm thinking it's like, this is like the last bit of scramble, they're just scrambling back, Jacksonville had to punt it or whatever. I'm looking, like, it's just 4 minutes and 40 seconds. All right. And I look up, first down gets converted. Look up, first down, another first down, another first down. Then the touchdown, and it went for 2. I think the snap was bad. I'm like, wasn't it 29-10? And then you were texting, and then I looked up, and Houston was running the ball into the end zone. I'm like, what happened? Literally, I had I looked up, and they were celebrating the end zone with the defensive tackle. And then Liam Cohen was throwing his stuff on the side, like, yo, dog, that's on you.
Yeah, the number 1 defense in the league proved their worth. In that fourth quarter, they outscored Jacksonville. I think it was 26-0. They held them to 11 total yards while gaining 167 themselves. And that wasn't even CJ Stroud. So, so I was looking at this.
He didn't even stretch, though.
So now Houston kind of throws themselves back into certain conversations of, if the defense is going to play like that, even if they don't make the playoffs, they might play a big role in who does.
The defense has to play like that. Like, they still give up 29 points. That's still a lot of points.
It is.
It was an epic collapse. I think the collapse is probably the craziest part, because we talk about this, as a Falcons fan, is notorious at 28-3. But football is probably one of the only sports I can think of professionally where you can literally dictate how long the other team has the ball through minimal effort. If you just get a first down, you have basically told that team, all right, you're not getting this ball back for at least 2 minutes if we keep it on the ground. So if I'm looking at the clock and it's 8:33 left, you're not going to bring your timeouts too early. So if I can get a first down conversion with 8:33 left, that's 40 seconds run off after that play. Run it again. That's another 40 seconds. run again, that's another 40 seconds. And if you get that first down, that all starts over. You can literally freeze the other team out. Baseball, you got to pitch to them. Basketball, they got to get the ball back. Hockey, they get the puck. Soccer, they're going to get the ball because you can't just hold it. Like every other sport, the comeback is possible because the other team just has to get the opportunity to score. And football, you can literally just hold it. You can literally just delay their opportunity to get the ball or put them in a position where it's like, you got to score 3 times. There's nothing else you can do. Basketball, you can hit 5 threes in a row and get fouled and turn those into 4-point plays all on your own. But in football, you have to get 17 points. You got to get 2 touchdowns and a field goal. You got to get the ball 3 times.
And unfortunately, we found out today that Travis Hunter's out for the season. Obviously Brian Thomas Jr. was already injured. Out of Jacksonville's franchise history, they were 53-0 in games that they had at least a 19-point lead. Call it.
I'm pretty sure that's standard across.
It might be. I
know one team that blew it, but
All right, but hey, speaking of that team, what happened across seas?
Oh, this is the funniest conversation of. My dad's a Colts fan, so I'm watching the game. He's watching the game. We're texting. After the coach did something well, I'm texting him like, man, Atlanta doesn't stand a chance. They can't figure this out. He's replying with, man, we just an okay offense. The defense ain't worth a damn. So we're literally, neither one of us are giving our teams any credit for this conversation because it's like,
right.
For him, it's like you're optimistic because, like I said, while that game is playing out, you're 7-2. You lost a tough game to Pittsburgh, but you're 7-2. For me, I'm upset because the defense was playing so well, and it's like they played so well versus Buffalo. They played very well against Indianapolis. They played very well against Minnesota. They did a pretty decent job against Washington with Mariota. They still ended up getting 27 points, but the score was like 27-13 for a while. Then it's like it kind of went back and forth. Then I think it was like 34-14, and then Washington got a couple of touchdowns. I believe that's how it played out. But the offense was moving the ball, and Washington was doing their thing, but we got a couple of takeaways here. But you played so poorly against Carolina. You played poorly against Miami. Kirk Cousins obviously just played poorly anytime he was like in that Miami game. And then you're playing so well versus the Colts, but you can't stop the run and you can't convert third downs. The last 3 games, there's something like 3 for 28 or 5 for 28 on third down conversion.
And the last 3 games, Bijan doesn't have a touchdown.
Kyle Algier has a touch. It's not to sound like a broken record, but I was literally watching a game. We get the kickoff for the punt, or however Atlanta was starting their offensive possession, 1st and 10. I look at Rachel and I was like, pistol formation, run the Bijan to the right. This is in the commercial break. This is before I saw the formation. This was after the TV timeout. They're in the commercial break. I'm like, they're going to come out in the pistol, run the ball to the right with Bijan. And that's what they did. If they put Algier in, they did the same thing. Occasionally they go weak side, but it's like, we know you're not throwing out of that. They don't go under center. They don't run. The only play action they run is this. It's the same play action. It's almost pointless. And the play action they run is like they just like stick the ball out, and then Drake London runs an out, and then any DB jumps it. It's so redundant. It's childish how bad it is.
And then Raheem Morris, there's 2 truths out there. Rich people can't take their money with them when they go, and you can't take your timeouts with you to the next
They
team.
sacked Daniel Jones probably with 50 seconds left.
Did not.
It was going to be 3rd and 7. Kurt Warner's like, I'm surprised they're not calling timeout here. You know why they're not calling the timeout? Because Raheem Morris is like, okay, I'll take this 1-point lead into halftime. I'm good with that. That's sufficient. I don't want to go out here and make a mistake. The reason they can't convert on third down is because the offense, if I really had to guess, like I'm like not exaggerating, they probably run 20 different plays total.
Okay.
Like, and they're from 2 formations: shotgun, pistol, rarely under center, rarely with 2 backs on the field at the same time. But if they do have 2 backs out, they split Bijan out wide, which lets you know I'm not giving it to Algier. I'm throwing this screen to Bijan.
So how many yards do you think the Colts had?
I think I saw the number somewhere like 464, somewhere in that range.
The number was 519.
Yeah.
519 to 290. But hey, Jalen Walker, y'all got one in that one. But hey, game of the week. Before I could blink, what did I tell you? You know, the Jets ran the punt back. They ran the kickoff back. And I was sitting there the whole time like, this is playing out exactly how I thought it would play up. And you know the best part of it? Justin Fields, after all this time in his career, looks like the creative player that you spent your time to perfect and make a 99, but the dude controlling him has never played Madden before.
Doesn't know how to do it.
Has no idea what he's doing. He had 54 yards passing. He did have a touchdown pass that was on a screen pass. So how,
check it out.
How fitting is that?
So that math, right? They were trying to, the broadcast was trying to like really sugar it up. Justin Fields, the last drive, really got the passing game going. I'm like, cut it out. He had 54 yards and 42 came on a screen pass from the previous drive. It's like, no, they had 2 touchdowns off of special teams. He had 5 pass attempts. And it's like, just be honest. Stop making up stuff just for the sake of this conversation. It's like, they're not performing well.
You know what the best part is? We get to watch the Jets on Thursday. You know what I'm saying? As they play the Patriots. But, so talk to me. Oh, bless you. Talk to me about Dylan Gabriel.
All right. So
I've been waiting for this all day.
This is the part that like gets me. I'm a fan of football. I like movies. I like music. I like food. I can't cook all the food that I like, but I know what a bad plate of food looks and tastes like. Okay. I'm not Quentin Tarantino, but I know Tubi movies aren't generally award-winning. I know some bad music. What I'm seeing from Dylan Gabriel is like, this is it's not bad quarterback play. It's just not sustainable quarterback play. And it's being masqueraded as like he's evolving and he's getting better. It's not. That throw he had to Jerry Jeudy, if there was any wind, it would have knocked it down because that ball was just floating. The DB, I don't know how he didn't adjust to the ball, but
because it's the Jets.
The numbers 17 for 32, 167, 2 touchdowns. So 15 incompletions. Happens. He threw a couple into the dirt, and the like I said, the commentators were like, "Oh, I think that was tipped at the line." They showed a replay. He'd have an opening. Like the guard is pushing this way, the center is pushing it, and Jeudy or Tillman or anybody, Junkins, they're just wide open in front of him. Ball's going straight to the ground. He didn't throw any deep ball. I think that touchdown pass might have been 20-something yards. It hung in the air for about 27 minutes. I saw Stefanski have a little smirk on his face. Like he had a smirk like, yeah, I told y'all he was nice. And that was after the Jeudy touchdown. That was it. That was it. Every other throw, if you had the grade, it was poor. Legit. Like I said, he had 167 yards. The Jets weren't moving the ball. They had the ball a lot. They had the ball a lot.
Luckily, the Jets, for the Browns' sake, the Jets in 9 games have only forced 1 turnover. You know, they traded
They
Sauce.
still don't have an interception.
Yeah, they traded Sauce. You know what I mean? Brandon Stevens is what he is. You know, my guy that I was excited to see, Azariah, got hurt, got a concussion. You know what I mean? So, you know, but Mr. Logical, can I make a corny joke?
Always, just show.
So you remember that TV show Punk'd?
Yeah.
Carolina, you've been shucked. Tyler Shuck with his first win, 2 touchdown passes. And you know what? I'm excited because guess who Carolina got next?
I think it's Atlanta.
Yeah, coming on down to the compressor. You know what I mean? And then finally, all I'm going to say is, how bad are you when Dan Campbell decides, I'm the play caller today, and they score 44 points? And this is not the first time. This is the second time this season that Washington has lost a game 44-22. You know how hard you have to try to do that? So Dan
and Seattle lost. I mean, Seattle beat Arizona 44-22. That's very strange.
So
6-6-6.
Dan Quinn pulled Joe Witt out of the booth and put him on the sidelines. Obviously, like I said, it went to hell. So now Dan Quinn has decided, I'm the defensive coordinator now. So the question is, and I know it's a little premature, but is that the beginning of the end when you got
absolutely?
Because it's one thing when it's the offensive coordinator that has to do that, but when the coach has to call the defense,
it's not common. I know Belichick was always in the defense's huddles, and he was given his pointers when the offense was on the field because he just knew Tom would kind of take care of it, and whomever he had calling plays, they'd figure that part out. So he was always had his nose in the defensive huddle because, like, no matter how bad your offense is, if your defense is stout, your offense will get a chance. Like, there's going to create a turnover, it's going to create a bad punt, field position. It's going to get something to where one of your wide receivers, a tight end, somebody's going to get open, someone's going to be able to score. Your field goal kicker is going to kick a 55-yard field goal, or 5 of them. We've seen plenty of games where a guy will kick 5 field goals and the team will win 15-13. You know, we've seen that before. If my job as defensive coordinator is calling the plays for the defense, and you take that from me, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you paying me? I'll stand there and get the check, and I'll relay all information and be as best of a coach that I can be. But once you take that responsibility away, and I think as a coach, you have to be like, you got to say to yourself, am I building this person up to take the responsibility back? Because if not, then just fire me and let me get the rest of my check that I'm owed, and I can go about, I can enjoy the holidays with my family instead of being here with you, watching you do my job.
Well, this is what happens when you hire your friends instead of what you need, because Joe Witt had never been a defensive coordinator before. He was the secondary coach in Dallas, and speaking of Dallas, I don't remember when the last time Dan Quinn had a good defense in Dallas. Like, remember, like, we saw him in that playoff game against Green Bay. And then you turn around and look at it in Washington. We talked about this in our preview. They're the oldest team in the league. And, and a lot of that age is on that side of the ball. So I don't even know what
and
Dan
you got dudes out here punching the refs and punching players.
Well, Amon-Ra St. Brown did punch first. He just didn't get caught, I guess. But second guy always gets caught.
He cocked back in the middle of the field and punched the guy in the face who was wearing a helmet.
Yeah, he punched him in the
guy
helmet.
that goes across the middle. A guy that goes across the middle, you can just hit him and get a 15-yard penalty and stay in the game. He blocks on run plays. You can ignore Jahmyr Gibbs and just hit him. Yeah. Like, you can literally just hit him. You weigh 300 pounds. I'm Rob St. Brown is like, they might list him at 200. He's probably 195. Hit him with your body. Yeah.
So I don't
punch him and lose a game and lose whatever thousands you get every Tuesday.
Yes, I don't think Dan Quinn is going to get fired after the season or anything, but I think he definitely starts next season on the you better get it right track. So of
Correct.
course it's that time. It's that day of the week, Mr. Logical. It's time to talk some rankings. So let me go to my handy dandy page here. This is straight from the college football playoff.com. So I know that there was some talk, there were some questions during the weekend. Indiana had their escape against Penn State, and people wondered, would they move Texas A&M in front of them? The answer is no.
No.
Indiana has the tougher strength of record, which I think is stupid, but I understand why they use it. And I'm surprised it actually worked in favor of the non-SEC team in that conversation.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You don't have to. I think people are just looking at these things as final. It's fluid. So
Right.
you don't have to move them now. When Texas A&M, I don't know how like the SEC championship's going to line up, but if Indiana plays some 2-loss team in the Big Ten championship, wins or loses, and then Texas A&M plays a 1-loss SEC school, they're going to jump Indiana. Like that's the moment you want. That's the moment you want to clamor for the jump, because that's going to be the SEC's tougher than the Big Ten. This is a 1-loss team that they beat, and they barely beat a 2-loss team. Like that's when all these arguments that you want to have, save that for then. This early November argument, it's not going to change anything.
I think most people have Indiana in the Big Ten championship game. It's going to come down to Ohio State and Michigan, provided that Michigan doesn't drop something between now and then. But, that game at the end of the month could determine who Indiana plays. And, before you blink, we could be looking at Michigan in the college football playoff. That's something that's not really being talked about.
Man,
but
Michigan's not Ohio State. Ohio State going to beat the brakes off of Michigan in the big house. Call it what you want.
The last couple of years.
This year is the year they make me right.
You remember? Do you remember what the spread was last year when they played?
It was about it was
22.5. It
was like a brick and a half. Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah. And Ohio State came out there, your boy Ryan Day, I think he was still dyeing his beard at that time.
But his just for men beard.
Yeah. And, he was trying to prove that point of we're tough. We're going to run the ball. We're going to not take advantage of Jeremiah Smith and all these guys, so, stay tuned. But A&M, they're coming off the win at Missouri, not so impressive now because they're down to their third quarterback, who is a freshman. It was his first start. So you got to take that for what it is.
Welcome to the SEC, kid.
Yes. And then the way that it lines up right now, it would be number 3 and number 4. It'd be A&M and Alabama in the SEC title game. You got Georgia right there. And we got the big one this weekend, Mr. Logical. We got the Horns coming into Athens. So Georgia is still alive for the SEC title because Alabama has Oklahoma coming to Tuscaloosa this weekend. So we could see some movement up here right at the top. Texas Tech moves up a couple of spots after their win over BYU. And just let me address this one thing real quick. Don't be sitting up here telling me how great a team is, and then if I lose to that team, you call me a fraud. That's what happened all day Saturday is BYU's a fraud. It was like you picked Texas Tech to win the Big 12.
And they're 6th.
Anyway. We'll get back to that another time. I don't want to get on the soapbox.
Yeah, we know how that goes.
Yeah. So then scrolling down a little further here's 7 through 14. Look at 14. I'm loving it. Vanderbilt still sitting around. They got a couple of games before they go into Neyland Stadium to close the season. So this is what I'm ready for. Or I'm sorry, they got Kentucky, and then after they play Kentucky, they go to Neyland. So if they win Kentucky, that game could be if Vanderbilt's going to make the playoff or not.
Okay, do me a favor real quick. Scroll back up. I want to count something real quick. So I'm counting SEC schools. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And then
6 at the top, and then Vanderbilt. So 7 of your top 14 Is there a real scenario to where they get like 6 schools in? I know you're gonna run all these scenarios, but like, do you think
there actually is.
they're
There
gonna get
actually
6 in?
No, I don't. I think they're going to land on 4, but because they're going to they still have to play each other. You know what I mean? So Ole Miss is in the clear right now. All they got to do is beat Florida and beat Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl, and they don't even have to play for the SEC title. They could just.
So they're not playing for the SEC championship.
You know what I mean?
So they're chilling.
So Bama, they got Oklahoma this week, and of course the Iron Bowl. You never know what's going to happen, right? Then you got Oklahoma. They should be fine if they could beat Alabama this week because they close with LSU.
Oklahoma loses, and then Vandy, they have Kentucky this week, you said?
Yeah.
So they move up. So that's still 6 in the top 12.
Right.
SEC schools anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you got Georgia and Texas playing each other.
Texas wins. Georgia still stays in the top 12. So Texas, they probably flip-flop.
That's where it gets a little cloudy because then Texas closes the season at home with A&M. So if Texas wins that game, then you might see 5. I could see 5.
Because A&M, that'd be their only loss.
Yeah, that would be their only loss. And then we have
to then who would play in the SEC and the tiebreakers would determine the SEC championship game.
Which is the problem.
And they might not have to play in that. So they're sitting there with like Indiana was last year with the one loss, but everybody else is playing for the championship.
This is the big problem, right? Because A&M. Well, this is the problem with these big conferences, right? A&M and Ole Miss didn't play. Bama and Ole Miss didn't play. Bama and A&M don't play. So Bama beat Georgia. Georgia beat Ole Miss. And now we got Georgia, Texas this weekend. Texas beat Oklahoma. Ole Miss beat Oklahoma. So Oklahoma didn't play Vanderbilt.
And all that is just gasoline for the SEC to get 6 teams in. And I think they will. I think as when it all settles, you said 4. I'm thinking 6. We'll probably go most likely scenario 5.
Yeah.
Just as it plays out. Because I think even a 3-loss, I think a 3-loss Texas would leapfrog a 2-loss Utah.
Go Utes. That's probably
even I don't think that's like fair. I just feel
probably true.
Star power, the conference, the 2 losses that Utah has, is Texas Tech and BYU. Even though both of them will be in the mix for the college football playoff as well, they'll find a way to discredit those losses and say, "You mean to tell me on a neutral field Texas would lose to Utah?" And that's going to be the argument. And then they got to bump Texas up. Yeah. It's going to be interesting. So just win, baby. You got to win. If you win, you win. And then you let you win and you let the people in suits go to the podium and tell the fans lies.
So it gets interesting after Vanderbilt. So here's 15 through, I guess you can see. So 15 through 22.
That's when you squeeze in your ACC schools who are going to be like, yo, we got to be represented too. Like, yeah, we give y'all 1.
Well, I got something coming up here. We're gonna have a fun conversation here in a second. But
let's hear it.
So hold on, we'll get there. So looking at this, Miami, right? They could go 10-2, not play for the ACC championship game. They could get an at-large because they still got that win over Notre Dame in their pocket. Regardless of how early in the season it was, you can't have Notre Dame up here at 9.
And not give them credit for the team that gave them 1 or 2 losses.
Right. Then you got Georgia Tech, who lost to NC State, who Notre Dame blew out. You know what I mean? So you got that going on. We'll get back to the ACC. USC, it's all coming up because USC, they have Iowa this week. Then they play Oregon. So it's all on the line for USC these next 2 games. You know what I mean? And then they close, of course, with UCLA. But Oregon, on the other hand,
could be a tough game. You see how they got up for Penn State. So
yeah, and I saw how Nebraska came in there without Raiola and whooped them this past weekend. So you know what I mean. Crazy. But shout out to Matt Rule. Saying your second most hated coach, and then
favorite guy.
You got Virginia and Louisville down here. So Virginia got the head-to-head over Louisville. Louisville beat Miami. but they lost to Cal this past weekend in overtime on a 2-point conversion.
Their coach and
Virginia.
quarterback got death threats. The guys they arrested a guy.
Oh wow. Yeah, I
Yeah, they
didn't see
arrested a guy from Florida who legit. I think he made a mean bet, like a mortgage style bet, like a I'm gonna lose the farm kind of bet, and it didn't hit, and he sent them death threats.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. So then you got, so Louisville, they still got a game at SMU, before they close out the season with Kentucky. Iowa, my upset didn't come through for me. Oregon with the last second field goal, but it goes back to that thing, right? Iowa hasn't beat anybody this year. Like, yes, they played Indiana tough, 5-point game, Indiana's closest game, closer than Oregon. They played Oregon to this standstill where Oregon kicked the game-winning field goal last week. But I don't care who you lost to. You got to tell me who you beat too. You know what I mean? So then you got Pitt down here, and your third most hated coach, Pat Narduzzi. Sitting up here, they asked him the other day, hey, is Notre Dame a must-win this weekend? And he said, absolutely not. We got to just win these ACC games. Wrong answer, Pat. Tennessee, another team. Who have they beat? I know they lost to Georgia in that, overtime game. They lost down in Tuscaloosa. Oklahoma came in there, was it last week or the week before, and put some boots on them. So when I look at Tennessee, who you beat? But, it goes back to what we talk about. You got to have Tennessee there for Bama and Georgia purposes.
Georgia, yeah. So you can boost their numbers, yeah. So
yes,
great on that curve.
We finally got a G5 in the rankings. South Florida makes their entrance at number 24 with their coach Alex Golish potentially interviewing for a couple of jobs. And then Cincinnati enters the rankings. They were not there last week. They got a game with BYU coming up. So, that'll be an elimination style game. But I said we were going to have a fun conversation, Mr. Logical. Now, before I get this started, I'm going to say that I don't think there's a chance that this is going to happen, but it could. So let's roll with it. So let me pull up my ACC.com here, Mr. Logical, and let's look at these conference standings. You know what I'm saying? There you go. Hold on. Let me make that a little easier to read and everything, because we got some stuff brewing in the ACC, man. So as you can see here, you got a bunch of 5-1 teams. That's their ACC record.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So as you see, you got Miami down here at 3-2 in the conference. But Miami has the win over Notre Dame that we talked about. Okay. You know what I mean? So if they win out, they go 10-2. They're sitting there with a top 10 win, provided that Notre Dame doesn't lose another game. Now you got Louisville ahead of them, who still has to go to SMU. You got Pitt, who after Notre Dame, they go to Georgia Tech, and then they get Miami coming to them. Virginia goes to Duke this weekend. And we got to see the status of their quarterback, Chandler Morris, because he got knocked out with a concussion in their loss to Wake Forest. That was their first ACC loss. They did lose to NC State earlier, but that was a non-conference game. Didn't count in the standings. Georgia Tech lost that game to NC State. So, they got a couple of ACC games left, including the game against Pitt. It's a mess. It's a mess. So here's my scenario. It could be possible.
I'm gonna write it down.
It could be possible that Miami wins out. Duke wins out. Because as you look here, they're 4-1 in the conference. They're 4-1 in the conference.
I knew it as soon as I looked at it. I was like, I know what this crazy, beautiful mind is gonna come up with.
Yes, but they're 5-4.
Is there a way for Duke to win the ACC and get into the college football playoffs?
No,
even though they're right there 5-4. Okay.
No, that's not the full story. Could Duke win the ACC and the ACC champion not get in the playoff, but Miami does? You know,
like I said in our previous segment, you know, what I mean, we let the games play out, and then we let the dudes in the suits go to the podium and lie to us. Because they'll tell you what matters in one way, doesn't matter other way. So they're gonna come up with something. We go back to the Florida State undefeated season. Texas and Alabama both get in. Florida State doesn't.
right.
And they said it didn't matter, you know, who was injured, available, blah, 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 blah. We just looked at the schedules and we thought these were the 4 best teams.
Yeah.
That's what they're gonna do.
Well, so that's why I said it's
but
not.
You would have to lie. You would have to you would really, truly have to just. Honestly, you couldn't lie because no one would believe the lie. You'd have to go up to the podium and say, "We think Miami travels better than Duke. That's why we picked Miami." That's the only explanation you can give.
Well, but
because
think
if
about
Duke was ACC that you don't put them in because their record, that record would probably be 10-4 after the playoff. After that playoff game, maybe
they would
be 9-4, maybe 9-4.
Yeah.
So they'd be 9-4. Miami would be
10-2.
10-2.
All right, now hold up.
For you to put Miami in, you would have to literally you couldn't lie to us. You would have to say we put Miami in because we think they travel better.
All right, so next scenario. So Miami loses to Pitt. You know, there you go. Pitt's up there at 5, one of these 5-1 teams. Pitt beats Georgia Tech. So now you got Pitt finishing the ACC at 7-1. You got SMU win out. So you got a SMU Pitt ACC championship game. SMU finishes 10-3 in this scenario.
Okay.
SMU beat Miami. Miami beat Notre Dame. Just saying.
But Pitt beats SMU.
No,
in
SMU
this scenario.
beats Pitt. SMU
beats Pitt.
Yeah. It gets real freaky, you know. And the reason that I bring this up is because now, so the American is looked at as the premier G5 conference. You know, you got South Florida, Memphis, Tulane, North Texas, all duking it out for supremacy, even though Memphis lost to Tulane last week, so they might not be as prominent in the picture. But for all intents and purposes, most people think that the American champion is going to get the playoff spot, you know, because San Diego State lost last week. They get Boise this week. Maybe if they beat Boise this week, maybe that gives them another boost. But then you got James Madison, shout out to Virginia, down in the Sun Belt. You know, their only loss on the season is a 7-point loss at Louisville. The problem is James Madison has a weak schedule overall, like their strength of schedule. But you could end up with 12-1 James Madison, 11-2 South Florida, you know, and you give it to South Florida because of their schedule. But if I got Duke sitting here at 10-4, could I justify putting in 12-1 JMU over Duke?
Nah, because the schedule's weak. The committee isn't like you talked about this before, how college football and sports fans hate Cinderellas after the second round in NCAA tournament. We love them in the first round. We love them in the second round to give you that boost in your bracket. But after that, you want Kentucky, North Carolina, Duke,
Kansas, get them.
Kansas,
UConn,
Indiana, UConn. You want the blue bloods for the rest of the way. So that final 32. So you get the 64 down to 32, and once you get to your Sweet 16, you want all of that to be your traditional basketball colleges that, you know, some of our favorite players from the 80s and 90s attended, and jerseys we have in the closet. That's what the college football committee wants as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to pick the 12 best teams because it's all laid out. Realistically, 6 teams are just going to be up here. So if we look at the rankings right now, you're going to get Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, Bama, Georgia, Ole Miss. Like 1 through 6, they're going to be in the mix for that 12 spot. That's easy. Anything that allows you to say anything that goes sideways, like you have 4 losses. We get you're the champ, but you got 4 losses. You played in your conference championship because of a multitude of tiebreakers. It wasn't because you were the best team in your conference. It's just that everybody else knocked the other one out. Whereas Bama is going to probably play for the SEC championship, or Texas A&M is going to play for the SEC championship because they are the upper echelon of the conference. If you win because a team had a bad day versus Cal and another team had a bad day versus Syracuse and another team had a couple of bad games versus Georgia, it won't be looked at the same. In the NFL, you're Gucci. You can be 9-7 New York Giants, 10-6 New York Giants, and beat 18-0 New England Patriots, or 16-0 New England Patriots for the regular season for the Super Bowl, and people are going to give you credit for beating them. In college football, they don't want that Cinderella. They don't want the miracle. They don't want the helmet catch with the underdog beating the juggernaut. They want the 2 juggernauts to play a 35-34 game where it's a block field goal at the end and the field, people storming the field and the confetti falls, and it's Bama color, Georgia colors, it's Penn State colors, it's Texas. It's one of these blue blood colors coming from the rafters. They don't want Memphis knocking off Ole Miss in the first round.
Yeah,
it's not the game they want.
So here is this week's version of the bracket, courtesy of ESPN. So ain't it crazy that if this bracket were the real bracket, I would finally get to see Texas play Ole Miss, even though they're in the same conference?
I'm looking at it right now. Like, you have Miami. Miami is what in the ACC? Let me pull it up.
They're
ACC.
like 6th or something, like
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Miami's currently 7th in the ACC, but yet, if I'm not mistaken, they're the only team represented in the 12.
Yeah,
but like I said, I get it. It's early. I get it that it's early, but that part I don't get.
And it goes back to those conversations like talent versus performance, right? So Miami is hands down the most talented team in the ACC, but talent doesn't matter if you lose. You know what I mean? And that's the thing about college football is that we could watch a team lose and people will say, well, they got the better roster. They got the better. I don't care about that. Who won the game? And that's the position that Miami's in, because it's assumed that Miami's going to win out. And they have that win against Notre Dame. So obviously for this scenario to play out, you would have to have these other teams, your Georgia Techs or someone else, take another loss. Like you would have to, you got what, 4 or 5 teams up there with 1 loss. You know what I'm saying? SMU already beat Miami. You know what I'm saying? So even if SMU loses, that doesn't even necessarily help Miami because SMU would still have the tiebreaker. So you would need a 3 or 4 team scenario.
You would need a pseudo collapse of 5 of the 7 teams.
Right.
Like a couple of them have to lose 2 games, but even with that, it's like depends on the Venn diagram who plays who plays them when. I still don't think that gets Miami up high enough to play for the ACC championship game.
Well, like I said,
they're probably going to just simply get in because they beat Notre Dame and they travel better.
Well, like I said, you got Pitt, Georgia Tech next week, and Pitt closes with Miami. So Miami could give Pitt their second loss, but in this scenario, you would have to have probably Pitt beat Georgia Tech to give Georgia Tech their second loss.
Pitt probably has the most dangerous path of landmines to set themselves apart because they have Georgia Tech and Miami both really good teams. So they can end up with 3 ACC losses, even though as of right now they're having a good run in the ACC.
Right.
So that can change over the next few weeks.
So Georgia Tech plays Boston College this weekend. So I think we can pencil
all
that
intents
in.
and purposes, that's probably a win.
Right. Then they go to Pitt. Like I said, Virginia plays at Duke. Beyond that, Duke has North Carolina and Wake Forest left. Virginia, if they survive Duke, they got to go to Blacksburg.
In the bit of a rebuild. I mean, granted it's rivalry, but it's like they're not whole.
Right.
So
right.
you should have the upper hand because you're a whole team, you're a complete team, and you're playing well and you're playing for something.
But that's also provided. That's also provided that the quarterback is back. Because the quarterback has the concussion. But then you got Louisville who plays at SMU. So that game is obviously going to be important because if Louisville loses, they're out the way and Miami can jump past them since Louisville beat them head to head. But if SMU wins, it becomes real interesting because outside of that game, they close with a trip to Cal. And Cal just went into Louisville, so I'm not going to sit up here and act like
you can't write them off.
Right.
So I mean, you're impartial in this. Would you want Miami? Like who should be?
If I'm the ACC,
the question. If you're the ACC, or you're the ACC, or you're the college football playoffs, what do you want to happen if you're the ACC? You want Miami represented, or you want one of your teams that's currently sitting at 8-1, 8-2, or 7-2 overall?
I think Miami, just because Miami probably gives you the best chance of a win. Because we're talking about the talent. So theoretically, and they've already beat Notre Dame, so they've showed that they can.
They can be a top tier team.
Whereas Georgia Tech, saying record wise, would make your season validated, I guess, because they would be the best team with the best record. But the problem is that the ACC went 1-6 in their conference games this year, or against the Big 12 this year. So you can't even make that argument of, hey, we're better than the Big 12 because we've seen that already. So Miami is probably the one that matches up the best with Texas Tech. And then here you are. These are your odds right now to win the ACC. So Georgia Tech's the leader with Duke in second. Miami's all the way down here because they got the second loss and they need a lot of help.
Yeah, if I'm the ACC, I want one of my teams that's currently sitting at 8-1, 8-2. Any one of these teams that's currently 5-1.
Yeah, I want
one of them to win out. Give me any one of them to win out.
So besides Miami,
one or two.
So besides Miami, from that standpoint, I would want Georgia Tech. I would want Georgia Tech to be the one. The problem is that if Pitt wins out, Pitt's got the wins. They would have the win over Notre Dame, just like Miami.
I just want one of the 5-1, one of the teams that's 5-1 to win out. That way, the case to include the ACC championship game, I need them to win all the way out. That way, if they do it again, if they FSU you again, I believe you probably could take them to court. Like if I'm the ACC, I think you have enough to take the college football playoff committee to court and sue them for the money that your conference would have earned based off the parameters that they have set. I'm not sure legally what, they're just an opinion base. So I don't know if you can sue them for your opinion, but if there is any evidence of collusion or anything of that nature, because this would be the second time in 3 or 4 years where you went to the podium and said one thing all throughout the rankings. The 3 or 4 weeks or so the rankings comes out before the final one comes out with after Thanksgiving, the weekend after Thanksgiving, correct? So this whole month of November,
it's in
so
December. It's after Army Navy.
Yeah. So this whole month of November, you're saying one thing, you're putting teams in place. And granted, yeah, we have Miami up there right now. But as it plays out, and then you have championship weekend, and you have the results, and I got Pitt sitting at 11-2, because right now they're 11, so they're 72. I got them at 11-2 after 13 games, ACC champion, and you run Miami up there as the not even like because you got to put somebody in,
Right.
but you run Miami. Yeah, theoretically, and then you run Miami up to the podium. It's like you can't do it unless you flat out either say we think Miami's travel's better, or you lie to the people.
So I see what you did there with that court thing. So I will take your ACC lawsuit and raise you a Brian Kelly lawsuit.
Listen, the law has no feelings. Like I said, I got a criminal justice degree on the wall as well. So it's like there's no feelings with the law. Like, yes, the Supreme Court judges and circuit judges and people can have their opinions, but their opinions have to be based on case law. And that has to be based on enough certified information as, okay, my opinion is based off of this law. This is the opinion that I'm offering. But it's not just strictly what you think. It's based off of other things that have occurred that have been ruled on by previous judges at any level. What LSU is doing with Brian Kelly is we want to get rid of him. We don't have the bread to pay him. So we need to find some kind of way to discredit him so we don't have to pay him. And that's bullshit. Like, listen, let me go. Let me live my life. We had a contract. You want to terminate it. These are the conditions of that contract. Any lawyer will cut through that.
Well, that's the thing. LSU, or I should say Brian Kelly's legal team, their argument is LSU is arguing that they never fired him. And that's where it gets kind of muddy, because we talked about Scott Woodward earlier, the AD that got fired recently, and besides the Brian Kelly thing, we talked about it. He brought in Kim Mulkey. He brought in Jay Johnson, the baseball coach. He brought in the gymnastics coach, who I admit, I don't know the gymnastics coach name, but I know Livy Dunn.
Livy Dunn is one of the most popular NIL athletes in the country. She's more popular than football players.
Right. And he's partly responsible for that because he brought in the coach that, coached her, or, however that worked. But yeah. So at the time, they lost to A&M.
They got documentaries on Prime about them, about that team. Yeah.
Yeah. They lost to A&M on that Saturday night. I believe it was October 25th. They lost to A&M at home. Mid-afternoon, it started coming out that he was fired. According to the lawsuit, they were told that Woodward didn't have the authority to fire him. So Woodward told him, hey, we're going to let you go, XYZ, whatever the case may be. But then I guess allegedly the school is saying you don't have the power to do that. So I'm like, are they trying to say that he's AWOL?
So is he on sabbatical? Did y'all pay him this week?
That's the good question.
If you believe that he's not really fired, so I know we got this government shutdown and people aren't getting paid, but LSU is not run by the federal government, even though the governor is getting involved with the hiring because they probably want to take public money to build whatever or pay NIL deals just so they have a really good college football team. I mean, do you have a really good college robotics team that you're using tax money for? But I digress. Or how about the 837,000 people in your state that are on SNAP? Did you get them money? But I digress. So you worried about LSU football. All right. If he is not fired, then he should have got a check this week for whatever LSU did last weekend.
Or he should have got a phone call that said, where the hell are you?
Either you're not at work or you're getting this check, you're on sabbatical, you're on administrative leave. You need to be on some kind of status. You can't just have me dangled out here.
Did they reassign him somewhere? Because, because looking at it, they owe him $54 million. That was the buyout. So initially when the firing first happened, there were reports that were saying they were only going to give him half because of a morality clause that he violated. But
now let's think about this morality. Like, did they get sued for the 27 million that they weren't going to give him, and they got to pay something out? Because if you kept him around here, if you knew he had a morality clause violation, and you let him keep coaching, wouldn't that make you liable for whatever infraction or morality
you would
violation?
think so. But then there's other reports that say that they've offered him 25 million. He said no. They offered him 30. He said no. So that brings us here because allegedly in the lawsuit, his legal team is saying that Woodward, Julie Cromer, who is the executive deputy athletic director, whatever the hell that means. Austin Thomas is the senior associate athletic director, and Verge Osbury,
sounds like some jobs people made up to pay their friends. Keep going.
So Verge Osbury is now the AD that replaced Woodward. So apparently all four of them were in this meeting with Brian Kelly when he was let go. You know,
so Woodward fired him.
Allegedly, yes.
But then they had a meeting with the interim AD, which they just recently took that title off and made him the actual AD. Yes. So all these people are in cahoots to try to pull back some of the millions.
Include the governor, like you said.
So the week before this game, we did our preview. I think we recorded on Thursday. It aired on Friday. And throughout that week, you and I did a simple Google search and saw what the buyouts were for all the coaches we felt were on the hot seat, or like the top 10 buyouts.
Right.
His name was on that. So if I knew it was $54 million if he got fired this year, you knew it, our listeners knew it. Why is the LSU brass not aware that you owe this guy $54 million?
Oh, they are very aware.
That's what I'm saying. Why was it like if you knew you weren't going to pay him the $54 million, you should have figured out a way.
Well, so allegedly,
prior to announcing that you're going to fire him.
Allegedly, they hired private investigators, you know, to look around and snoop around and find dirt on him to get them out of this payment. Now, I will say LSU, the institution, has not gone on record to address any of this. They have not responded to the lawsuit publicly. They have not uttered a word about it. So we'll have to see how this plays out, I guess.
We were talking to Chris the other day. He was like, we make so many things to destroy ourselves, just as humans. Honor the contract. It's going to cost you millions. 107,000 people filled Death Valley. Charge $2 more for the beer, $5 more for the tickets.
Well, they don't even owe him right now. They just have to pay it by 2029. You know what I'm saying? Versus if he would have took the offers, the alleged offers, I believe that would have been a lump sum. And you know, so that's where they got off the hook with Les Miles.
He probably wants a lump sum. He probably wants a lump sum right now, and they probably want to take that 20 and stretch it to 2029. Because if I'm looking at 54 million and you're going to give me 30 right now, or I got to go 4 years to get 54, I imagine I've never had $30 million, but I imagine you could live pretty comfortably off that, considering you still have the skill set.
He made a pretty penny at Notre Dame, and
so he made some good money. So if he gets 30, if they offer him a $30 million buyout, and it's like, it's right now, it is Tuesday, 10:38 p.m. They sign this deal. Your check is signed. You can deposit in the bank tomorrow. You're good to go. Now you're free to go find another job. I think he takes that deal.
Yeah, because you could always have the money offset with his new contract too.
And then you get the $30 million from LSU. You go do the Penn State interview. You take that job. You get whatever they pay you for that job with that big Adidas money they're about to get.
Questions. So in a scenario like this, we often see, if this is all true, we often see the whistleblower, you know, get retribution and all that kind of stuff, and they get reprisal. So by filing this lawsuit, Is he hurting his future employment
No,
possibility?
because I think if you're looking from the outside in, if you are who needs a coach? Florida, uh,
Florida, Penn State,
Penn
Auburn,
State, Auburn, Oregon State, Grant. I'm
Virginia
pretty sure he's
Tech,
not going to Virginia Tech and
UCLA.
UCLA. And you're looking at how LSU's how their business, like as far as what we know, allegedly through these transactions. To me, it looks as if they are trying to avoid their obligation that they agreed upon with him. If you're Penn State, you say to yourself, we don't conduct business that way. And if I was in that same position, I would sue as well. Like if you work at Penn State and they're going to fire you, like if you're the AD right now at Penn State and they're going to fire you or dangle you and they're not paying you, yeah, I'm pretty sure that person would do the same thing. So I don't think they would look at Brian Kelly as like,
All right,
oh,
so
he's being a nuisance. I think they're like he's doing his due diligence because from what we're getting, like you said, LSU is yet to respond. So we're just allegedly,
all
it
we have is
seems
this
as
story.
if is we have one side of the story, and that side of the story seems to point to the larger organization not understanding the lack of leverage they have in this conversation based off the fact you owe this man his money per his contract.
Now, with all that being said, conversely, I love that word.
Yeah,
Conversely,
great
uh,
words, great word. Especially used properly, is a great word.
does that hurt the type of candidate that LSU can attract?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because, like you said, you got the new AD being either handpicked or interfered with or by the state, like the governor of the state, and then a couple other people who seem to have fabricated titles just to be in that position. Because I don't think you need an executive assistant athletic director. What was their
Executive,
title?
yeah, executive deputy athletic director, and she's also the the COO as well. So
That's just too much going on. So if I'm Lane Kiffin and LSU calls, I'm like, nah, I'm good. You haven't resolved the issues with your last relationship, and you're doing it publicly, and you're trying to make that person look bad after all of the stuff. Like, yeah, he didn't bring a national championship to LSU. Heisman Trophy, a lot of wide receivers, a lot of talent, a lot of big time draft picks, top draft
34 and
picks,
14 record.
a lot of wins.
Made it to the
And like I
SEC
said,
title game his
he's
first
not
year.
my favorite. He's like I said, he's not my favorite guy because like I didn't really like. I think he's kind of smug, whatever the case may be. He just doesn't really. I like Lane Kiffin.
I attribute
Just
that
I
to
just
where I attribute that smugness to where he's from.
yeah. So
He's a mass hole, as they call him.
yeah. So like I know people from up there. They they're it's like Jersey people. Like you think they're assholes, but they're really just real direct. It's like listen, things got to go, 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 go. And that's why he's not playing this bullshit. Like, I'm not dealing with this. You dangling me around. But if I'm a candidate for a job in Florida, Penn State, and LSU want to interview me, LSU's third. There's still a good program, and it's still opportunity there that you can't pass up on. But they are third because I'm not hearing the same problems with Billy Napier. I'm not hearing these problems. Franklin, it was like the buyout is this much and
Go get a job.
go get a job.
Yeah, because they
And
told him
we'll
like in his contract that he has to look for
actively
employment.
look for employment.
Yeah, so that doesn't matter if it's TV, if it's as a head coach, whatever it might be, go find a job.
Yeah. And even if you don't try that hard.
And real quick before we get out of here, you brought up Lane Kiffin. A couple people been bringing up his name for that Giant job too. I don't like it.
I mean, the Jackson Dart connection.
Yeah.
I like the Jackson Dart connection. I would like it if Lane Kiffin never had any kind of like, because he had a stint in the NFL, right?
Yeah, he was with the Raiders.
Raiders coach. Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
So I like it. I'm not sure the Maras and the Kiffins are a great marriage. I think they're a little bit more reserved kind of organization. And I don't know. I don't know what the upside is to be the Giants coach if you're Lane Kiffin compared to any one of these other college jobs you get.
I mean, the
Because
only thing that I could
he
think
won't
of,
get 15 million.
the only thing I could think of is people love New York City, but I mean, even though they play in Jersey, but
Yeah, people love the team. And if you don't do right by the team, they won't love you. As
right.
Tom Thibodeau. Like, yeah, people love the Knicks. They love the Knicks. They love the Knicks. They got rid of Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson has 11 rings. He used to play for the Knicks. They were sick of his ass.
Right. And you
So,
know, shout out to Nico Harrison.
Oh, yeah. I knew we got to get in. We got to get in this for a few minutes, though. I know we got to get out of here. I know it's late, but we got to get in this for a few minutes. It's just, what did they fire him for? What did they fire him for this week that we didn't know after Kyrie got injured and after AD got injured last year and Cooper Flag was going to be a number 1 overall pick? We knew all of these things were going to be the case. Why did he get fired this week?
I mean, the only thing I can come up with is they got the 5th or 6th worst record in the league right now.
But you knew that going in. Like, that was going to be your position. Did you think Cooper Flag, not even, I don't think, is he 19 yet? Or did he turn 19 like December?
Let's see. He is still 18, December 21st.
18 years old. You think that this 18-year-old that you drafted after you traded away the most beloved basketball player since Dirk in Dallas was going to be the savior in the month of November in your basketball team? This is a byproduct of business people who make millions, billion-dollar deals running sports franchises, because to make that kind of money, you don't know people. You just know money, and you bend to the whim of money. Remember the Russian oligarch that got involved with the Brooklyn Nets? He thought he was going to be like, I'm going to just throw my money at this and my business savvy, and it's going to turn. Okay, I don't need these picks. I'm going to use proven veterans. Well, these veterans couldn't keep up with them young ass dudes that they were chasing up and down the court. End up selling the team. And it's gonna be the same thing with this Dallas team, especially if they can't move Dallas to Vegas, allegedly with the casino connected to the arena. If that deal never happens, because we talk about Vegas all the time, there might be space for it. But if the Vegas tourism thing doesn't ramp back up, yeah, but they want the arena and a casino, which that takes years to build. You're not going to get any ROI on your current Dallas Maverick team if you feel like you got to tank for a year or two in order to even get the city to not care if you move the team to. It's just the whole thing is just poor because they're looking at it like a business. Like, oh, I bought this business. I want to move this business to a new state. It's like, you can't just do that with sports because people fund your business in Texas from Dallas, the taxes, all of that stuff ties into the community. When you're making billions of dollars, you don't care about the community. You care about the bottom line. And there was a picture of the owner, the dude with the hair, like the owner by proxy, sitting next to a kid courtside that was wearing a Luka Doncic Laker jersey. And he was talking to him. And then after that was yesterday. And now all of a sudden Nico's fired because the kid was like, I'm just loyal to Luka.
There you have it. They I guess they were looking at Nico as the basketball expert, even though I don't know what he had on his resume that would lead you to think that he was.
Hey, Luka, just do me a favor. come back next season 235. Whatever we need to get you, we'll build you a gym in Slovenia. We'll fly out a trainer. We'll teach them the language. Whatever you need from us as an organization, we just need you to come back here, 6'8", 230 pounds. Can you do that? Because that's all it was. That's it. You wanted to lose weight, and you blew up your entire franchise and gave them to the Lakers, who's going to do everything to make it work.
And Kyrie still ain't coming back until around January or so.
Best case scenario, he's back in January. He probably won't trust his knee fully until April.
Yeah. And you know, like, and allegedly, you know, I don't know if this is one of those trade rumors that the websites make up or if this is legit, but I saw some rumors that
the Nico thing yesterday I saw, and somebody said it was fake.
Well, they say that the Lakers might be trying to get Daniel Gafford. So you
should go get AD.
I don't know what you give up. Well, Austin Reeves and Rui.
Nah, I'm give you
Rui 20, and Ayton.
I'm gonna give you 2022, 2032, 33, and 34 first round pick. Give me AD.
I don't know.
I don't care what you need, Dallas. I'm trying to win here. Hey. You gave me Luka. Now you already gave me one terrible deal this calendar year. Give me another one.
Well, hey, LeBron's on his way back, you know, down in the G League and everything, allegedly about to get started. So, yeah, you know what I'm saying? We'll be talking about some basketball here shortly.
Yeah, we'll get some basketball mixing here.
But
shout out to Nico Harrison.
I'm watching Gonzaga and Creighton right now. You know, Louisville just took care of my Wildcats. You know, so college basketball is in full swing as well. So, you know, but on that note, y'all.
Ramp back up.
Yeah. But on that note, y'all, we love y'all so much. Thanks for joining us. We are wherever you get your podcast. He is the one and only world-renowned, world-famous, cool, calm, and collected.
100%.
Born in Texas, raised in VA, representing everything New Jerus. He said, even though y'all know him as a Rutgers man, he's been known to hang around Seton Hall from time to time. He is.
There. The VA's up there.
Mr. Logical. Don't bring feelings to a fat fight.
Don't do it.
And then, of course, it's me down here in the Alamo, your unorthodox statistician, still mad as hell that John Cena won the Intercontinental title last night, but that's a whole nother story. Going left so much that you thought I was southpaw, moving so quick, even though we the same age, Manny Pacquiao can't keep up. I am 2-5. So we will be back on Friday. You know what it means. Picks, and more picks. So like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things, preferably with a Liquid Death in hand. But if not, of course, there's the Liquid Death hydration. And we'll see y'all in a few days. Happy Veterans Day.
We'll get your benefits before they try to take them away.
Hey. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt.